Hello, my name is Daniel Shin, and welcome to a discussion with the Dean on Christianity and Law. So today was a very, I think, loaded session of a lecture, so I'm going to have to unravel a bit of that. But it seems like there was a part where you mentioned that Jesus made an argument that eventually was a lost argument. And so a question I would have to that is, what do we have to learn from a losing argument that Jesus is presenting here today?
Yeah, the one great lesson, I think, among many, Jesus loses, but he leaves his audience very affected. That is to say, they begin just by having a narrow concern in issues like what does the word burden mean for the purposes of understanding our duties on the Sabbath? We can't carry burdens. They're interested in what kinds of phrases constitute blasphemy. And Jesus is able to change the argument into a conversation about who he is. Who is God? Well, what is the mode by which we're saved and reunited with God? And the message today, I think, and I believe this came across in a lot of different ways, as you say, was the way that Jesus wins arguments is not always by convincing people about the narrow issue under consideration, but by changing the argument so that an argument that is narrow and meaningless and dry becomes one that offers people a chance of knowing him. That's a great argument.
One aspect that I found very interesting on the earlier portion of the lecture was, of course, as legal practitioners, a big part of our responsibility is to fight over definitions. And clearly there seems to be that tension between how Jesus defines work in the context of Sabbath and how the Pharisees do that. So could you summarize that aspect for us in regards to the lecture?
Yeah, I mean, this is Jesus takes the natural forms of argumentation, and he shows us how to employ them in the right way to draw people towards God ultimately. And a basic move that you make when you're arguing about a definition is to place the context of the statute or the rule that you're interpreting in a larger context. To place a lesser rule under a greater rule and to interpret the lesser in terms of the greater. So the Pharisees are focused on whether you can bear a burden. And Jesus draws them instead into a question that hinges on the nature of the command not to work on the Sabbath day by saying, well, God is always working. The Father is always working. How can the Son of God do anything else? If there's a work that God does in preserving, sustaining, recreating creation always, although God has rested from his creational work on the Sabbath, you don't really think he's rested from all work. There must be some kind of work, the work of God, that can be done on the Sabbath. And emphatically so, if the Son of God has appeared to you, if the Son of God stands before you, well then, what else could he do but do that continuing work of God? So what the Pharisees want to engage in as an argument is carrying the mat by which on which you rested before you were healed, showing the triumph of God's glory, is that burden carrying. And Christ could have fenced with them and argued about that, but what he succeeds masterfully in losing the argument, is forcing them to confront the great question. What is the continuing work of God in your life? Has the Son of God, who shows you the work of God, appeared to you in some way or not? And we do lesser versions of this all the time when we argue well. But when you see the move done in Jesus Christ and understand that in all that we counsel and all that we argue, this is always a way we can be arguing like Jesus Christ, so that the real work of the law in justice and mercy presses through to what we're doing. That's what a win looks like. It may be rare, it may be miraculous, it may be like a healing, it may require exceptional things. But when it can be done, it's a great gift from God.
Well, I'm just amazed that even though Jesus loses the argument at the time, we all know that at the end he was victorious, and that story is what I think follows up to that story. So thank you for that. So if you are interested in further listening to the lecture about argumentation made by Jesus, please follow our website and click on the link that's set on our website below.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Dean.